Most people spend years believing one story about themselves. I'm just lazy. But here's what stopped me cold. Neuroscience doesn't recognize laziness as a real thing. What it does recognize is a brain stuck in a protection loop. And once you understand how that loop works, you can never call yourself lazy again. Because you'll finally know what's actually happening. Think back. Think back to when you were a kid sitting in a classroom, staring out the window, dreaming about what you were going to become. Think back to that first day of college, the energy, the feeling that everything was finally starting. Think back to that job, that project, that thing you told yourself, this is it. This is where I make it happen. Nobody in any of those moments woke up and said, today, I want to fail. Nobody dreamed of an average life. Everyone, every single person, started with a version of hope. People had real dreams, real goals, real ambition. So what happened between those dreams and where most people actually end up? There's a neurological answer to this. And it starts with something called reward prediction error. A mechanism your brain runs automatically, every single day, without you even knowing it. Here's how it works. Your brain runs on dopamine, but most people have it completely backwards. Dopamine isn't the pleasure chemical. It's the anticipation chemical. Dopamine fires when your brain predicts a reward is coming. When that prediction comes true, when you solve a problem, understand something for the first time, get even a tiny win, your brain marks that activity as worth repeating. Prediction, action, reward. Repeat. That is the loop your brain is always trying to build. Now imagine two people starting the exact same goal. Person 1 starts. The first steps are uncomfortable, but somewhere in week 2, something clicks. A concept makes sense. A small win registers. Maybe someone notices their work. Dopamine fires. The brain updates its model. This activity leads to reward, so it lowers the resistance to doing it again. Interest grows. Motivation follows. Not the other way around. But what happens when that reward never arrives? Now, person 2. They also start, but the first steps are confusing. They fail the test. They look around and compare themselves to everyone else. And here's something most people don't know. That comparison activates the same neural circuits as physical pain. Literally. The same brain regions light up, and a thought starts forming. Maybe this isn't for me. So they stop. Not because the goal was impossible, not because they were born different, but because they quit before the dopamine loop ever had a chance to form. Here's what's actually happening when someone calls themselves lazy. The brain isn't broken. It's doing its job perfectly. It's protecting you from repeated failure. It's conserving energy. It's applying a learned pattern. This activity equals pain, not reward, and steering you away from it. That is not laziness. That is a learning system doing exactly what it was designed to do. The problem isn't your character. The problem is you never got enough early wins for the reward loop to flip. I've called myself lazy more times than I can count. But looking back, I wasn't lazy. I was in a loop that hadn't found its reward yet. And I kept quitting right before it would have. There's one more thing I want you to know. The people who call themselves lazy are almost never the people who didn't care. They're usually the people who cared the most. They tried, they failed, they tried again, they failed again. And after enough disappointment, the brain does something almost cruel. It turns the failure into an identity. You stop saying, I failed at this. You start saying, I am a failure at this. Labels become identity. And identity becomes the story you live inside. So what do you actually do with this? You stop trying to manufacture motivation before you start. Motivation is downstream of progress, not upstream of it. The research is clear. What you need is tiny wins first. Break whatever you're trying to do down until the first step feels almost embarrassingly easy. Do it. Let your brain register the win. That's not a trick. That's reward prediction error working in your favor instead of against you. Do it again the next day. And the next. You're not building willpower. You're building a dopamine loop around something that previously felt like pain. That is the entire difference between the person who has discipline and the person who doesn't. One of them stayed long enough for small wins to rewire the loop. That's it. That's all it is. Ask yourself this: did you actually quit? Or did your brain quit right before the loop could form? Because the answer changes everything about what you do next. So maybe you were never lazy. Maybe you just misunderstood what was happening. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I read everyone.